I guess that, like, I guess anyone can take planes for controlled landings, if that's what the definition
You
is.
can do it once. Welcome to Bible Boys, a podcast where two ex-evangelical siblings and an ex-Catholic non-sibling watch Christian media and either praise or condemn it. I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Michael.
This week we discussed the fall of Glen Shamblin's church in The Way Down Part 2. Before we talk a lot about plane crashes, please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, like and comment on our video, and follow us on Twitter at The Bible Boys.
I just want to say, I'm so happy we're not watching this during another, like, I don't know how to describe it, eating holidays, because I believe this was our Thanksgiving episode.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Which is a bit rough with the content of this entire vibe here, but these last two episodes not as my brother described before we got on the podcast, meaty as the last three.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk about the plane crash that kills Glen Shamblin and the resulting fallout from that, and then they talk about making the documentary and a bunch of other people who also were a part of the church and weren't like as deep in, but still had a bad time.
Yeah, should we open with the plane crash? Because I feel like this is maybe the most salacious and also the part that we have the least details on.
Yeah, let's just kind of follow the path that they kind of laid out for us.
Yeah, so, okay, there is a news report in 2021, May 29th, that a plane crashed into Percy Priest Lake in Tennessee. All 7 passengers died. And something that this documentary does that made me so mad is Natasha, the ex of Joe Lara. Okay, and if you haven't listened to our first episode, right now you just need to stop, go back, and listen, because we're not covering Joe Lara again.
We don't have the time. We just don't.
We can't. We can't. So they like catfish us and make us wonder, oh my God, is Natasha and Joe's daughter with them on the plane? Because here's the thing, the 7 people who died they are not released to the public because it's still an ongoing investigation. The only people that have been confirmed are Joe and Gwen, and it's because they're public figures and their church confirmed it. But when you have unconfirmed people, Natasha gets a call and it's like, hey, is your daughter with you? And she's like, no. Why? And then she learns about the plane crash that way. And this is fucked up. And she thought that her daughter died. She did not, thankfully. And yeah, I feel so bad for them because apparently they like took all of the kids who were now orphaned and just like hold them up with a bunch of like church members to babysit them.
Also, older kids.
Yeah.
I am also incredible. I was almost very angry with my brother because I was like, if I have to fucking deal with the mindset of like a child dying in this documentary, that like prior to, I was just ready to just, dunk on this dumb fucking cult leadership. And to also have to combine that with the death of a child, I was like, this is going to be the saddest episode since looking back at Michael's one on abortion. But yeah, I was, it goes out saying what a relief that child was not on there, because there was a lot of records of his name is Joe, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Joe flying with her while Natasha was like, hey, don't do that, you're not a good pilot. And I think it also goes to say that, like, they, at least from the from what we got, not from the podcast, from the documentary, that we don't really know exactly what happened with the plane, but we do know that they were flying in, like, terrible conditions, and that he wasn't a super experienced pilot, but, like, beyond that, it's still kind of up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, we really don't know all that much of what happened. It's an ongoing investigation. They were kind of like swerving in the air, going different directions. He was told to go one way. Apparently, like visuals were really bad. He also wasn't that experienced of a pilot. Like this is like rich guy hobbies. And maybe it should be harder to get a pilot's license.
But at least they were going they were going somewhere super important, and that's why they had to get on the jet super quick. Aaron, would you like to tell the audience where this super important location was?
Florida? Was it Florida?
It was a Trump rally.
It was Florida. Yeah.
They're on their way
excellent.
to a Trump rally with guest speakers such as General Flynn.
Yeah.
So,
And can we take a minute to talk about how Natasha is literally Joe's foil? Like, so Natasha, I think, has the most interesting story on here, just like given who she is and her proximity and like her ability to speak soberly on the cult. But more than that, like, she's like, yeah, I met Joe in acting classes. And she's like, I was really good, but I didn't pursue a career. I wanted a family. And she's like, yeah, Joe flew, but I flew too. And I had a real pilot's license. It's like literally everything he did, she was like 10 times better. Like, I'm kind of waiting for her to marry David Miscavige so she can be Mrs. Scientology, so she can say, hey, Joe married a cult leader, but I married the cult leader of Scientology.
I married a bigger cult. And we're gonna go into it. Like, that is not the end of her resume.
No.
Yeah, I did always get very excited when we were gonna get like part of her story, because I found everything with her and her daughter to be very compelling. I also think it's important to talk a little bit about the process that it was in order to get like her daughter back. Like, they had to get the police involved. Okay, So Natasha is very clearly like telling a story while saying this. Like, I'm not saying she's lying. I'm saying that like she is saying things in a way that is captivating. And the reason I say this is because every time she would talk about the police officer who helped her get her child, she would do a weird voice that she'd be like, the officer went, ma'am. And every time it did it, it really, I was like, I'm not used to hearing that kind of character put into documentary work.
Do you think, though, it's because this is a Russian woman who's like, this is what Americans in the South sound like? Because that's kind of my read on it.
It must have been such a, like, because that man must have sounded so strange that even while she was so worried about finding her daughter again, that stuck in her memory. Like, it must have been a deep Southern ma'am. I think that covers just about everything big with the plane crash. Other than that, like, other children of families seem to also get, like, moved with two other people within the church still. And that, like, there's talk about the wills being changed and the, like, people signing away custody right after finding out their children had died. And, like, a lot of weird stuff the church seemed to do to keep the children within the church.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like we were focused on keeping everyone in the church first and then their health and well-being second, which wasn't surprising.
No, I mean, it also fits right into the kind of idea that the documentary is trying to put forward, that this is a cult and that cults have to have a strict, like, kind of chain on all of the membership.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one thing that stood out to me, which is that like this guy was talking about how I think the daughter Elizabeth was like trying to consolidate power after Gwen died, and he says the line, "I don't know that anyone else had the same will to power that Gwen had," which is a concept in Nietzschean philosophy, which is very funny. Just to think about the ways in which like Gwen allegedly, exacted her authority on people. It's just like, I have to overcome them with my own like determination and willpower. But yeah, it was we kind of see the ways in which the cult is like very shaken, but also like is still doing major cult shit. Like we talk about this wedding that like, you know, there's this one daughter of these two people who are like, we, you know, our daughter just got engaged to this guy in the cult and we hate his guts, but we want to go to the wedding anyway. And like when they show up to the wedding, like everybody's just like acting like it's normal and they're all smiling and happy. And even the daughter, when she's being walked down the aisle, she's like, it's so weird that plane crash happened this morning. And the dad's just like, yeah, it is weird. Aren't you upset? Yeah, just fucked up and weird.
It is kind of wild with that family perspective, because the parents very like, they do not like the church and tried very hard to get their daughter out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And just hearing them try to process, okay, the leader of this cult just died and now we're around all of the members of the cult and we're the only one that seem to be dealing with this emotionally when we should have like the least emotional like stake in this. It's just wild.
It's like so clear. So these are Delaney's parents. If you listened into our first app, this was the girl who ran away and ended up joining the cult. It's just so clear that they are like, kind of, we will do what it takes to be in your life. It is on your terms. You got it. And I feel so much for them, and I feel a lot of empathy for them. And I just can't imagine being in that situation of, you know, like they talk about it like, there's no way the wedding's going to still be on, right? But it's important to note, and we've noted this in the past, when Gwen's own daughter had a miscarriage, they weren't allowed to mourn as a church. So when Elizabeth lost a pregnancy, like it was, you know, very much like, okay, let's keep on keeping on. So I think this fit right in a really like strange, fucked up, macabre way.
I also want to touch a little bit about the text message that got sent out to the people in the church, kind of giving them an update of what happened. And they said that Joe had to take the plane down for a controlled, like, unexpected landing.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, it, like, nosedived into 8 feet of water, and, like, they said there was no plane left.
They were
Right.
when they were talking about the plane crash, they were describing how they were descending at a rate of like 3,000 like feet per minute or something, and like the normal descent is like 500 or something. They're like, yeah, no. So everyone in the plane was killed on impact, just instantaneously, and it's just so evident to see like the delusion that, you know, these people have. It's like, yeah, I mean, he did have to bring it in for a controlled landing, by which we mean the plane was deleted.
Yeah.
I guess that, like, I guess anyone can take planes for controlled landings, if that's what the definition is.
You can do it once.
But, like, this kind of goes into the idea of the entire brand that Gwen had been able to put forward is, like, I'm, you know, chosen by God. Okay, I have to talk. I don't know where it is in the doc, but it stuck out in my brain so hard. And someone was like, do you call yourself a prophet? And she's like, I don't know what name I'd give my gift. And I am stealing that. Like, some people call me a comedic genius. That's not what I call my gift, though. That's not where I put it. It's, but like,
Yeah, she very consistently was like evasive on what to call it, and it's so clear that she was well coached legally.
yeah, but it's so, like, some people call me this. It's like, that's the energy it gave me.
Yeah.
But the idea that, like, God would delete his prophet, it, like, goes completely against their concept. Like, only good things should happen. Like, she's connected to God. If you're close to God, good things happen to you. So trying to kind of understand that bad things happen to good people destroys the structure of the cult, kind of. It's not what fully happened.
Does it?
No.
Because here's the thing, Gwen Shamblin sucked, and she got obliterated.
Right. And I loved the former congregant who was like, you know, I'm not saying God did it, but it sure seems like God did it.
Because I mean, they were talking
I
about
love
how
that energy.
There's one person describing how like Gwen like brought somebody who was recently diagnosed with cancer on stage in front of like the entire congregation and was just talking about how like, you know, there's probably something wrong with your relationship with God if you got cancer, so you got to pray about it and think about what you've done wrong. And there is something, you know, ironic and, you know, funny about how, you know, somebody who consistently preached that kind of ideology died in a horrific plane crash.
On their way to a MAGA event. I just don't want that to get lost in all of the insanity. That while this was going on, they were thinking like, man, what if we get to see Trump Jr.? Like, what if he makes an appearance?
You know, I'm starting to think our dad was right, and maybe Joe Biden was the Christian choice in the election.
Oh man, Brian.
God will punish you if you're going to a Trump rally. You'll either get COVID or a plane crash.
Oh man, Brian Green, just call him as he sees him. Yeah, but it's just insane because there's this immediate power vacuum that happens in the cult where it's like, this is all her. This has all been propped up by her force of personality. So now what? It's not going to go to, I believe the guy's name was Michael, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to go to Michael because, like, he obviously does not want to be here and just tried actively to leave.
Well, and he got his wish.
Yep.
He was scrubbed from all the church's website, all of their information. It was like he and the first husband like successfully just were like deleted from the history. Like it was very Men in Black. We're gonna wipe your memory.
Fucking Stalin looked at it and went, "Whoa, guys, that's a little intense."
I think Michael, like, within, like, a week of his mom's death, like, got a divorce and just, like, vanished, right? It was something very quick. He's like, I want nothing to do with you fuckers, bye.
And it then goes to the daughter, Elizabeth, who has also just been through the ringer. And there was a lot of talk, because the doc ends kind of before she tries to fully take control and power, and they talk about kind of, like, that lead up to that, where like she's setting the groundwork to eventually take over, and a lot of people in the doc are skeptical if that could even happen, if she has the ability to, because, you know, no one's Gwen, I hope. But then we find out at the very end that she's now completely controlling it, right?
I think technically, but as of the end of the doc, they're still not having like in-person services or having those sorts of things, right? Like as of the doc, they were still playing old services and kind of working that shit out. She's listed as one of the leaders,
But
and
there's,
she
like,
is
37 leaders, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what? I'm gonna
We're
just
gonna
go
do some
ahead and-
live research. Excellent.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and look up Remnant Fellowship Church and go to their website. Stick with me.
Sign up for some classes. Buy the book.
Let's see. Meet our members. Is that it?
Just opens
No,
it.
these are just random members.
Boo.
I was hoping
Professionals?
open up an Excel spreadsheet of every single person who's ever entered their building.
I mean, they do have they have a specific part of their site that have, here are our medical professionals, here are our public school educators, which is something.
Maybe I can find a job
Leaders, there we go. Yeah, so she's not, Elizabeth Hannah is not even listed number one. She is third.
Ooh.
And the rest are all couples except for Terry Metters. So, you know, that's certainly something. God, this has got to be 2/3 of the church here. I'm still scrolling.
There's another random part that I need to talk about because Gwen says some wild stuff on camera in like the mid 2000s, and because how language changes, now it's very funny to my Zoomer brain. where she says, "I have so much fun being submissive."
Yes.
I'm too mature. Yep. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm too
no,
immature.
I have that note too. She's like, it's like, she's just like, men are more dominant, and it's a lot of fun to find the joy in being a submissive woman. It's like, all right, Gwen, we get it.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about your sex life.
I'm begging you to not talk about your sex life, and we all know that's not what's happening.
No. We did in the second part finally get to the homophobia.
Yeah, that was like a nice, like, it was like, ooh, is that like oregano? Just like a little
I did like, we talked about it in the first part. I kept waiting and it never happened, and I kept being surprised because I knew it was there. Like, I can just spot it. But yeah, there was a gay congregant who was part of everything and came out to Gwen, and apparently, like, she reacted about how you would think as someone who died on a private jet going to a MAGA rally would react to you coming out to them.
I do also want to point out that he came out to another, like, church leader, and the church leader debate broed him. Just like, what if you weren't gay and you chose to do that? What if that's what's going on? I also want to point out that I love the LGBTQ community. I do. I truly do. I do feel that if Gwen was quiet about homophobia and quiet about Trump, there is a, like, non-0% chance she's a gay icon.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about the TLC-sized elephant in the room. The fact that Gwen and Joe were shopping a reality show about their life.
If this had came out, I guarantee there would be Twitter gays that would be like, you know what? Some parts were right.
I would have watched season 1 and been like, it's kind of boring, but, like, she's a weird lady. She's entertaining. And then the more I find out about her, I'd be like, oh, that's a monster. I have standards.
But, like, that, oh my god, that TV show, we gotta talk about it, because they show a clip, and it is, I look at reality TV the same way I do professional wrestling. They're talented, it's just not for me. I get the appeal. They're very talented. And it's all unbelievably fake. But, like, just watching her sit on a screen and not, like, it looked like all of the emotion was sapped out of her. And then Joe just kind of sitting there making, like Josh level goof after goof. It's rough. I don't know. That was a rough TV show. Like, even just the clip was brutal. Because he just sits
all
there
of it
and stares. And they're like, ha ha ha, oh my god, look at him. He looks kind of silly.
Yeah, there's a bit where he just, like, stares at the camera, like, just, like, bug-eyed, and he's like, is this good for you? It's like, that's the level we're bringing to this. I want to contextualize this because, like, the reason that they're doing this is because, like, once the rumors start getting out, they feel like they have to make a response. And, like, they show, like, they talk about the first half of the documentary in the second half, which I think is very weird. And they're just like, hey, ever since we came out, here's a bunch of responses and how people received it and how the church reacted. And I thought that was interesting, certainly, but, whenever it's not a good sign if you have to make a video response to anything. Like, I pray that in my life I never have to release a video that's like a video response to my cancellation.
Aaron releases a video fucking instead of a TTRPG review, it's just we need to talk.
Yeah, God, I hope not with my notes app and everything.
Aaron without his makeup and
clearly crying,
puffy eyes. But like, were you guys also a little disappointed they didn't like get a clip of our podcast in there?
Yeah, I mean, I really wish they had got our take. Come on, HBO.
I was sitting there like, maybe weirder things have happened.
Okay, I have their response to HBO up, and it is camp. This is like high art because it starts like the top of the page is the truth about the Way Down HBO documentary, and then it looks like the graphic design is my passion. I'm just dropping so many photos in chat.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Oh my Christ.
Oh, how many? It's three
and then
different
and then
fonts.
it's I know. And then it says press relief, official response to HBO Max documentary. And then everyone has a check next to it. So it's a check. We feel this documentary was yet again another Hollywood and media attack on religion. Check. The church has also encouraged members to find their own personal relationship with God. Check. Young Joseph Smith passed away in 2003 of a staph infection and high fever, which is a wild thing to put on their website.
Yeah, definitely want to call out the implication that you were involved in a child's murder.
You definitely want people
Definitely want to
Googling-
highlight that.
Want people Googling that name to just double check, you know? You really want people investigating that.
Fucking idiots.
Yeah. They have a check regarding the allegation of rejection of the LGBTQ population, which is exactly what I would like to be called, the LGBTQ population.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's fucking funny. I wish that it just said, claims that we hate gay people. Check. Claims that we hate fat people. Check.
Well, it says Gwen Laura always loved everyone and showed genuine kindness to all, no matter their race, religion, or background. We also would never shun or reject anyone at this church. This is simply false. Wait, I see a tiny little asterisk. Oh, I got at the bottom of the page, except for fat people.
Yeah, it's race, religion, background, unless that background was having a few too many calories. Jesus Christ, this lady would not have liked me. Oh, I hate it.
Yeah, and then they have testimonies. The titles of these. I'm sorry, I'm derailing us, but I can't stop. Never body shamed. As a physician. As an elementary school principal. How that exclamation point.
My I was never body shamed t-shirt sure is making people ask questions about whether or not I was body shamed, which have been answered by my t-shirt.
Oh my god.
There's I left and came back, and then my favorite. I'm that capital W, capital M, walking miracle.
I don't even...
Yeah, Camp, you're right.
Yeah, wow. Oh my god.
This is what happens when you alienate all the queer people, because no one's around to tell you, like, you're accidentally being hilarious.
And it, like, that first picture you sent of all of the, like, the women, like, it looks like they're at a funeral for their image.
Here lies our reputation.
Good lord. I think maybe the funniest part of the documentary is revealed at the very end, where like they're reading Gwen Shamblin's will, and it's just like, yeah, so she put everything in her will, like none of it was actually gonna go to her husband, which was weird. It was all supposed to go to her ex-husband, which means it defaults to her children because they're divorced. But it's revealed that like all of her stuff like is in trusts. And that literally nothing was left to the church itself as an organization, which is just like, if it wasn't real life, it'd be a little bit on the nose, right? It'd be like, come on, you know, if you're writing this in a story, you'd be like, she'd at least leave them like, you know, like her shitty car or maybe like
something
a couple
nominal.
$100. Yeah, but like literally nothing. It's just like too funny.
But even worse than that, I think that pushes it over to like, oh my god, the writers for this season are really hamming it up, is the reason why, like, I can't remember if it was her or the church that said, like, why nothing was left to the church, and that was because they made a donation of a house 20 years ago.
Cool.
So we're good then.
We're square. Excellent.
Incredible.
God.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's truly something. I do appreciate that all of these people did come out to tell their stories. Um, we did get some new people. We got some like really, really grim stories about people being told to like only eat broth to lose weight. Um, these are like standard eating disorder camps. Like I think I think they're kind of more of the purview of another podcast, not to plug, but Maintenance Phase talks a ton about these starvation diets. I don't think that's our expertise. You should listen to that after you're done listening to this, maybe. Uh, but I think that what's wild is how tied everything was in faith and how hard that must have been for everyone to untie. I did like we got a follow up of my favorite interviewee from the first round, who was a former member, who was a black woman, and she was like, "Look, I know I was in church with a bunch of white people and they were doing weird things, but like I was there for the faith and sense of community." But then she said she left the church and her husband stayed, and she saw a photo of her kid sitting with someone else being watched in church. And she says, I don't care if you go to that church. I don't care if we disagree. But if you ever take my kid and set them with someone that's not you, I'm going to slap the piss out of you. And I just love that energy.
I believe she was the same woman who said they hold that secret closer than KFC does that secret recipe.
Yep.
And that's just a good line. There's a couple points I want to make, and a lot of them have to do with the newer people that come in. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, these people came in partially due to the first part of the documentary coming out, and they really tried to make a point that it's so easy to mock people that get into a cult. It's so easy to be like, oh my god, how did you get into that? How did you believe that stuff? And all of them are like, that mocking kind of keeps people in there longer, because it's hard to admit you're doing something insane if everyone around you is mocking you because of that. And they also point out that so much of your life and community is wrapped up just because you might show up at a place at a low point in your life. I think all of us have been at points where, like, wrong person convinced me to do the wrong thing and bam, I'm in a cult. I definitely think that could have very easily... I say all the time, I'm probably a little too susceptible to some of the cult mentality. If I ever disappear from the podcast and they have to get a replacement host, that's what happened. But we have to have compassion for the people that get out and for the people that are asking questions that might eventually get out. Just because it's hard, y'all. It's really hard to exist.
Yeah, and I think especially a cult such as this that kind of preys on some cultural societal factors such as, weight and body size. Like we almost spring into this world like Athena from Zeus's head, like fully knowing that I will hate my body at some point or be aware of it. And it's really quite the cultural condemnation. And so when you have someone who's like, hey, I have the 1-2 punch of secret to salvation alongside the secret to being able to be the body type that you want to be, which in this documentary is pretty well noted as very, very thin. And even when they talk about variants in body types, if you notice, they use language of like stronger and bigger, right? So like they're kind of trying to say like you can be big and muscly or small and spindly, and those are your choices of like healthy quote unquote body types or godly body types. And I think that has to really like activate places in people's brains, right? Like I don't know. I can really see a world in which this takes on, and I love that the documentary spent its time kind of letting the deceased be the sources of comedy because they are just inarguably bad people, and then being nothing but unflinchingly sympathetic towards the people who suffered.
I think that's how we all have to come out of this, is like Gwen and that entire and all of those higher ups, bad, goofy, dumb, terrible, horrible, no good, absolutely bad. Everyone who suffered from it, there's a huge amount of sympathy that goes out towards them, and I hope that they're able to find happiness and be able to come out of it healthier and happier. But yeah, I just wanted to really hone in on that for a second, because I thought that's why I liked the second part so much, is because it just felt like buckets of compassion towards these people, and all of these people were just so clearly hurt from it. Even the like gay man who specifically stated, like, no, I wasn't in this super long, like, I feel kind of bad even being here because I didn't get hurt as bad. And like, the shit he went through was terrible. Like, having a debate for hours on whether or not you are allowed to exist as you are is not good for the mind.
No.
I do also want to point out that kind of put like a bow on Natasha's ending, is that she becomes a lawyer after all of the insane legal bullshit they put her through, and that just made me so goddamn happy.
She's like, actress, pilot, lawyer, what can't I do? And I just really appreciate, like, as someone who started going to school during the pandemic, I love someone who looks a crisis in the eye and goes, fuck it, I'm getting an education. Like, that speaks to me.
You know what will fix this? Higher education.
Just gonna stay in school.
Institution with no problems whatsoever.
Not a single one.
It is perfect and good, and we all love everything about it.
This message is brought to you by our friends and family at all colleges.
The future school that enrolls me.
Oh yeah, that's a good opportunity. They can go ahead and sponsor us now.
Offset those tuition costs. It's either that or start a cult, so...
I mean, listen. The year is young. Boy. Let's see. Is there anything else that we really need to cover from this one? Cover the plane crash?
Actually, yes.
Okay.
I have one thing as the resident hairstylist. We have to cover the hair. We finally got to talk about the hair.
Aaron and I will duck out for, what, you think, 2-3 hours?
No, I don't think it even needs that much time. So her hairstylist was, of course, a member of the church, like everyone in this little ecosystem was. And, I think I mentioned in the first episode, like, there is a world in which that's actually, like, super beneficial and communitarian. And then there's a world that's, like, abusive and culty, right? Like, it's one thing if your church leader is like, hey, did you know that, like, Mark is a mechanic and he, like, will give you a really fair rate and won't screw you over, right? Like, that's cool. That's, like, a great thing that can exist in these communities. It's another thing to be like, so you're going to lose your doctor, your dentist, your teacher, your babysitter, your hairstylist if you leave. But this member was Gwen's hairstylist. And she did the cut and the color, but in her own words, did not style it. And I regret to inform all of you what I knew in the very first episode. That's all her hair. There is not one extension on that little head. It is teased to the gods. It is hairsprayed so much it became a helmet. But that's all her.
Under your professional opinion, what do you think the time frame is in order to get that level of magnitude?
So I actually don't think it took her a lot of time. It's more of like force. Like the reason her arms were so muscular is she was just teasing, hairspraying. Like, it's a good workout.
Well, I mean, that is how Nietzsche said he got his mustache to look like that too. It's the force of personality. So it makes sense. God, it is insane. They also talked about a woman who was making, like, I think she's 17, 20, somewhere around that, like $20-something an hour, and then came to work for the church for $8 an hour. And then was like, hey, why are you paying me $8? And Gwen was like, well, don't be greedy about it, maybe? Which is...
Yeah, and, like, Gwen didn't pay her hairstylist, which is just, like, such a thing. So, this is like a slight tangent, but Lord, one of my favorite artists, talked about this, how there's like this fucked up thing about celebrity that the bigger you get and the more successful you are, the more free shit you get. Instead of getting it like in the beginning when that's really impactful and like it matters a lot, it's like you get all this free shit out of success. And it kind of feels like Gwen heard that and went, "That's a great idea. I should take from people."
Well, this entire concept, they talked about this way earlier, of the Southern pastor, like this all kind of stems from the idea of you give your best to the pastor, you have them over for dinner, you cook them their best meal, which is like I think I can speak for Michael on this one. We saw a bit of that in some of the churches we went to, where like
Yeah.
they're like the expectations that you like treated the pastor to a certain level, which is kind of funny. When our dad became one, I became more of a menace to him. Um, and there's part of it that comes from like, this is the person closer to God. This was to help me with my spiritual journey. And then some of it where like, they are just mini celebrities in that little town.
Mm-hmm.
And to a lot of them, it goes to their head, but it doesn't spread beyond that church. And this goes beyond even Gwen. I think just all religious figures kind of like this, that, all the mega pastors that I think we've talked about a couple. And where they can kind of use that natural impulse that kind of is as ingrained in a lot of Southern churches and just ride it to the extreme of, I am not just going to get the best dinner once every couple weeks from this family. They are going to pay for private planes and cars and homes and do my hair for free and watch these children for free and fix everything for free. And I don't know, it's got like the cult. I'm not saying it's ready-made cult. I'm just saying like they didn't need to make all the ingredients.
Yeah. That's for sure.
All right, boys, do we have anything else that we want to say about this fun little TV show?
I don't think so. Do we want to rate this baby?
I think we got to rate it. I'm gonna give this one. I watched the last episode while cooking dinner because fuck this lady.
I'm going to give this the 234th Pope, Pascal II.
I always want to ask you why. Like every time, I'm like, I want there to be a reason, and I love it.
There's no reason.
I know, that's
I never
the best
have
part.
a reason.
Well, that's actually what they said when they picked Pope Pascal II. They were like, "Hey, why'd you pick him?" They're like, "Ah."
Seemed like the good choice at the time. I have to give this one 3 out of 5 teasing combs because I'm sure that at least that many were broken in the making of Gwen Shamblin's hair. May they rest in peace.
Oh, when we are not investigating nightmare cults, where can we be found on the internet?
I'm at Green History on Twitter, where I complain about having to hear a government teacher's political opinions.
I am always investigating nightmare cults, just usually in my free time. I rarely tweet about it, but when I do, you can find me at Michael's Diamonds.
You can find me on Twitter at AaronXXL, where I tweet about tabletop RPGs, writing, and health policy. I make YouTube reviews of tabletop RPGs. You can find those at AA Voigt on YouTube. I do another podcast with my friend Layla. That's at Mortified Pod. We just did an episode on the previously featured on Bible Boys actress Sandra Bullock. She was in The Lost City with Channing Tatum and Daniel Radcliffe. That was a really fun episode. And we will actually be having
the pod, Sandy.
Yeah, Sandra, hit us up. We'll actually be having our 100th episode of Mortified next week, which will be a big deal. So if you are interested in listening to us talk about media, hit that up. Also, I don't know when the next time we'll have an episode out is, but I am working on a tabletop RPG that is essentially based in the Left Behind universe. It's just a solo journaling game, but that should be out at the end of May, so look out for that if you like our weird brand of Christianity and criticism. But yeah, if listening to us talk about Gwen Shamblin's plane exploding made you want to cry, just remember that it is okay to cry, because even Jesus wept. We'll see you all next time.